Hello and welcome back to the fourth tutorial for making space rocks in drag and drop. So today I'm going to be adding the score and lives and also the different rooms in the game. So let's get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is make a new object. And I'm going to call this OBJ game. And this object is going to be more of a system object. It's not ever going to be visible to the player, but it's going to be controlling things behind the scenes. So let's come up into its create event. And in here, we're going to set up the score and the lives. And now I could do this in the player object, but since we're destroying the player object, that means all of its variables will also be getting destroyed and then also resetting. But if we have the game object managing everything, then we're going to get those variables to persist even when the player dies. So in here, let's add a score. There we go. So let's drag in score, set the score, and we'll keep that at 0 for the start. And now for lives, so we want to set the lives, drag that in, and let's just set that to 3 for now. And now let's go into its draw event so that we can actually draw these elements to the screen. So again, let's type in score, and let's draw the instant score. So drag this in, and this is the caption that will appear before the score, so it would say score and then a number. And let's just draw that at 2020. In the room, so that should be right up the top, but just down 20 pixels horizontally and vertically. And now for the lives, let's drag that in. And for its location, we'll draw it at the same X, but another 20 down. And now we could draw just the text, but with this function, we can actually draw a sprite to the screen. So we could draw something like Zelda's 3 hearts or 3 little ships. So let's do that. Let's make another sprite. That will be our lives. And again, you can draw anything you like in here. I'm going to make mine 24 by 24 and draw a ship. There we go, that's my lives. And I've just left a bit of padding around the sprite because we're actually going to be drawing this sprite right next to each other for the 3 lives. And we want a bit of space between them. And I'll leave it at the top left for the anchor, just so that we're drawing it kind of like the text is anchored to the top left. Alright, so let's set that sprite to SPR lives. We do want it to stack horizontally, which means it'll draw it in a horizontal line. Let's just put this into the game. So drag it into here. And this object, like I said, isn't going to be visible, so it doesn't really matter where you place it, but the convention for objects like these is to put them at 0, 0 at the origin. Alright, so let's give that a run. And there we go. So you can see our score is coming up and we have our 3 lives. So at the moment, it's actually just drawing with the default font, but we can make our own one. So first off, let's just make that font. So let's come into fonts, create new. I'll just call that FNT text. And you can set this as whatever you like. I'm going to use Consolis, and I'll just change a few things about it to make it look a bit more retro. So I'll bold it, turn off anti-aliasing, which just means the more transparent sections of the font aren't going to be visible. It'll look a bit more blocky and pixelated. And now we just have to set that font. So we can do that in the create event. And so let's just type in font, set font, and we'll do that here as well. So we'll set this to FNT text. And from now on, whatever text that we draw is going to be drawn using this font. So we only have to do this once. All right, now for the lives and score. So for adding to the score, let's come into the bullet object because that's where we had the collision with the asteroid. And in here, we can set our score to +10 relative to whatever it currently is. But hold on a second. Remember that we're inside the bullet object, but the score variable here says that it is an instance variable. So different instances can have their own scores. So we don't actually want to access the bullet score, we want to access OBJ game's score. So we're going to have to apply this block. So we'll just move it here. We'll have to apply this to the game, right? So then it will be adding 10 to the OBJ game score. And we'll have to do the same for the ship. So when the ship collides with the asteroid, that's when we die. Then we want to apply to OBJ game. And we want to take away one of the lives. So lives -1 relative to what it currently is. Let's shoot. Great, so the score is going up, and when we die, one of the lives disappears. Perfect. Alright, now let's create the other rooms for the game. So at the moment, we just have our game room, but I also want a start room, a win room, and a lose screen. So what I'm going to do is actually duplicate this one because I want a lot of the dimensions to be the same. We'll call this RM start, and now I want to drag this to the top of the list of our rooms, because when you run your game, GameMaker is going to start in the very first room in this order. So we want that at the top. And now we can take away all of these. And I do want the game object to be created in the start room. So I don't actually want it created in the game room, because I just want to set the score at the start. And then I want that object to persist through the different rooms, because usually when you transition between the rooms, all of the objects from that room is going to be deleted by the time we move to the next room. So we'll have our game object persist, and we'll just duplicate that again for RM game over. And we'll just delete that game object. And one more time for RM win. All right, so that is our different rooms. And if you want, you can add different backgrounds to them and customize them a little bit, but I'm just going to leave them like that for now. And I'll just be drawing text in these different rooms. So let's come back to the game object and in its draw event. Now I actually only wanted drawing this stuff in the game room. And depending on if it's in the start, game over, or win room, I want it to be drawing different things. So we want this object to be drawing different things depending on the room that we're in. So we could check if the room is equal to, for example, the start room, and then check if the room is equal to the game room, if it's equal to game over, if it's equal to room win. But another tool we can use that we haven't used yet is called a switch. And this can be just a kind of nicer way of setting things out when you have a lot of different cases. So we just put switch here, and then we put the value that we want to switch. So that's going to be the room that we're in. So that's a built-in variable that we can use. And then we can just say, in the case that the room is equal to, and then we can just type in the name of the room. So RM game, then we want to do these things. And then another case, so for example, if room is equal to room start, then we can draw a bunch of information for the player at the start. So for the start room, I want to do a few things. So now we just want to draw some text to the screen. So let's type in text. And you can see there's a few different options here. So we can draw something to the screen, or we can draw it transformed. And I might actually use this one for the title, because I want the title to be a lot bigger than everything else. So I'm going to put Space Rocks. And I'll draw this at 250, which is just half of 500, 100, so it's kind of up the top and in the middle. And now I'm going to scale it up by 3, just so that it's a lot bigger. And I'll leave the rotation at 0. Now, for the next thing, I'm going to draw, score 1,000 points to win. Right, so that's just going to be my win condition for the game. And I'll draw this at 250, a little bit down, but still in the middle. And another one, and now I'll just tell the player the controls. So move with up, left, right keys. And again in the middle, and a little bit down. And another one. Press space to shoot. 250, 260. And finally, press enter to start. And again, in the middle, 250. Alright, and you could also add another one down the very bottom, which just has your name. You could say by FriendlyCosmonaut, or whoever you are. Alright, so now if we run that, we should start in the start room. Alright, so you can see that it kind of worked. It's drawing all of our text in the middle, but it is left justified. So it's starting off the text in the middle, and then it's writing it. But we want to send to justify the text. So up the top, right here, when we start drawing the text, let's set the text alignment, which is coming up right here. So that's all we need. Drag that in, and we want to set the horizontal alignment to be the center. And we can leave the vertical alignment being at the top. But whenever you change anything in the draw event about the alignment, just remember to change it back at the end, because otherwise it might mess up alignment of other things like this, for example. So once this runs, in the next step, if the text is still center aligned, this is going to use the center aligned. So we have to remember to set this back to the default at the end, which is the left. So if we run that again, there we go. Now, this is all in white at the moment, but if you want to add some color to the text, we can set the color just like this. So we can drag it in right here. And this is setting the draw color. So this is the color that is going to be used for anything in the draw event. So if you're drawing shapes or anything. So for example, I could just set this to yellow. And I'll set it back to white here. And maybe just to highlight this one, we'll also draw this in yellow. And again, I'm going to set this back to the default at the end of all of my text drawing. So back to white. All right, so let's give that a run. There we go. Then for the other room cases, I'm actually going to be drawing pretty similar stuff. So what I'm going to do is actually copy and paste this. And we'll just have this as, let's do RM game over. But instead of space rocks, I'll say you lose. And then instead of yellow, let's do red. And I might just change the position a little bit because we're not going to have as much on the screen. I'll keep that scaled up at 33. And now let's tell the player what their final score was. So let's type in score and we're going to draw the score again. But let's say final score and we'll draw it at 250 by 250. And I'll just delete a few of these. And I'll just say press enter to restart. And we'll leave it 250 by 300. All right. And we don't technically need this because it's still set to white. All right. And now let's duplicate this one more time. So copy and paste. And it's moved to the start, but it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter what order these are in. It's just going to check what room is equal to. So I guess up here or wherever it was pasted, RM win. So the win screen will make it green. So all green. And we'll say you win. And we'll keep all those variables the same. And yeah, we can leave all of that the same. We probably don't need to tell the player their final score because we know it's just going to be 1,000. But if you were tweaking your game a little bit, you might want to tell the player their score. So I'll leave it there. All right, and now for us to actually check if this has worked, we need to get the transitions between the rooms working. So we know that in our start room, just as we've instructed the player, we told them that if we press the enter button, then we would start the room. So let's create an event and we're going to use a key press enter. All right, now again, depending on what room we're in, we're going to want this enter press to do different things. So for example, in the game room, we don't want the enter press to do anything. But in the start room, we want it to go to the next room. And if we're in the game over or win rooms, then we want the enter key to restart the game. So we're going to use another switch statement. So let's type switch. And again, we're going to switch the room and we'll check our cases. So if the room is RM start, then we want to go to the next room. So let's type in room and let's have a look at these. So we want to go to a room. So we can say go to room and we could type in the exact room or just go to the next room. So if you have set the order of your rooms up like this, you could say go to the next room, which would just be the game room. But just to be safe, I'm just going to specify that I want to go to RM game. All right. And now in the case that it is the game over room, then I actually want to restart the whole game. So let's restart the game. And again, let's copy and paste this for the RM win. But now to actually get to the room win or the game over room, we're going to have some checks for if lives gets to below 0 or if score gets to 1,000. And now we want to be checking this all the time in the game room. So if we're in the game room, so we're just going to use if the room is equal to RM game. And now we want to check if the score greater than or equal to 1,000, then we want to go to the win room. But if the lives is equal to less than or equal to 0, then we want to go to the game over room. And just to speed up our testing, I'm going to set the score to 990 and lives to 1 so that we can just check the transition between 1,000 and 0. And let's shoot something. So awesome, we went to the win room. Let's restart and let's go crash into something. Great, so now we've lost. Press enter to restart. So great, all of the transitions between the different rooms seem to be working. Alright, great, so that will do us for now. And in the next tutorial, that will be our final tutorial, we're just going to add some flourishes to the game. So we're going to have the game object actually spawning in more and more asteroids as we go through the game, and we'll be adding some sound effects and some music. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I will see you in the next one.